Hi, my name is Heather, and welcome to another episode of Wacom plus Cricut, my series where I show you how you can use your Wacom tablet to create projects for your Cricut. Before we start, I want to give a huge thank you to Wacom for sending me this tablet and for sponsoring this series. I'm using the Wacom One Display 13-inch tablet, and I will link this in the description below. So if you're interested in getting one for yourself, you can find the link to that in the description of this video. Today, we're going to be making New Year's Eve headbands. I think this is a really fun project for New Year's Eve so that you can kind of dress up your outfit with a cute headband. And it's also a great option for if you have a digital shop and you're selling SVGs. This is a great seasonal thing to sell on your shop. The supplies that I'm going to be using today are headbands, which I got from the Dollar Tree. I would probably want a simpler headband without these like wavy things on them, which kind of make them not completely straight on the front. But these were the best ones that I could find. So those are the ones that I went with. I also got some really fun cardstock from Michaels. So I have this dark blue glittery cardstock, and I got some black, and I got some silver. I also have just a very basic hot glue gun, nothing fancy. It's like the most basic kind that you can get. I might have gotten it from Michaels, but I'm not sure. I've had it for a really long time. I also got some embellishments. Some of these are from the Dollar Tree, like this garland, and then some of them are from Party City. I got some of these little curly things in some different colors, and also these cute little pom-poms, but I think it's probably going to be a little too big for the headband, so I probably won't use those. As with most Cricut projects, we're going to be creating this in Affinity Designer so that we can have it in vector and have it as an SVG file that we can bring into Cricut Design Space. I have a ruler here, and I'm just going to measure the width across the widest part of the headband. So if I take my ruler and put it up to my headband, the widest part of the circle of the headband is about 5¼ inches. So I'm going to go with that. And when you create this SVG, if you use it for a bigger or smaller headband, or say you sell it online and someone is using a bigger or smaller headband, then that's okay. They can just resize the file itself to whatever the width of their headband is. I'm in Affinity Designer 2, and I'm going to go ahead and create my new document. We measured on there 5½ inches wide. So we want it to be a little bit wider than that. And then the height, we want it to be a lot higher because we're going to have some extra height on the top of the headband. So we could probably just start with like a standard 8½ by 11 size. And if we want to resize it later, we can. So down here under layout, I'm going to do 8½ for the width and 11 for the height. And make sure that your document units are in inches. For the DPI, you want it to be 72. That's really important because that ensures that it will come through as the correct size in Cricut Design Space. Then we can go ahead and click Create. Now we're going to take that width that we had measured on the headband, which was 5¼ inches, and we're going to make a circle that's going to be that exact width. So I'm going to grab my ellipse tool on the left, and I'll just click and drag and make a circle. And you can hold down Shift to constrain the proportions. And then to get it more exact, we can go down to the Transform panel in the lower right. And I'm just going to set the width to 5.25. And then the height also 5.25. Unless you have your little link selected here, then that'll just change them together. Another thing I'm going to do right now is actually duplicate this circle so we can use it later, because we can put some text along this circular path and have it curved with the headband. So I'm going to go over to the Layers panel over here, and you can see our layer right there, and make sure it's selected. And then I'm going to go up to Edit and pick Duplicate. So now we have 2 of those, as you can see in the Layers panel. Let's just hide the one on top. So I'm going to click this circle here and now it's hidden. So now we don't have to worry about moving it around or accidentally editing it. So I'm going to select the bottom one. And now I'm just going to make a little bit of a spacer, which is going to be at the very top of the headband. If we have this as the headband, we want to have like maybe 1/2 inch of space here. That's going to be the cardstock. And that way, if we want to put any of that garland or any of the curls or any of those special embellishments, then we'll have room for that and it won't cover up the text. However, if you don't want those extra embellishments, then you can just make that part like super short or leave it out. To do that, I'm going to take the circle and I'm going to go up here where we have the fill and the stroke. And I'm going to click on the fill, make sure that's in the front, and I'm going to click the no fill button. So now we have no fill in the circle. Now I'm going to go over to the stroke panel and I want the width of this stroke to be 1/2 inch. So I can make it bigger or smaller here, but if I want it to be exactly 1/2 inch, I can actually click on the measurement right here and I can do 0.5 IN. And that is going to automatically select the right number of points here so that it's actually 1/2 inch. The next thing that I'm going to do is we actually want this extra strip right here to be above the headband, not inside or centered. So because of that, we want the stroke to be aligned on the outside of our circle. So I'm going to go over to the stroke panel and I'm going to go to Align and select Outside. Now the stroke is perfectly on the outside of our circle that we measured. Now I'm just going to lock this layer because we're done with it for now. We will be making some changes to it later, but right now we have it how we want it. And now I'm going to add some text. So let's go back up to that circle on the top and show it. So I'm going to click this circle here, show it, and I'm just going to move it back into place. Now remember, this circle we had at the original width, and we're going to have to make it wider to account for that extra strip. So instead of 5.25 inches, we're going to add 1 inch because the 1/2 inch on the left and 1/2 inch on the right is going to add an entire inch to its width. So down here, we're going to click on the width and I'm going to set it to 6.25 instead of 5.25. And if you have this little link selected, it'll also change the height. Otherwise, you'll want to change the height as well. And I'm just going to place it over the one underneath it. And I'm going to go up to color and I'm also going to take out the fill for this one. So I'm going to click that. And then we can go ahead and add some text to it. So I'm going to click on the artistic text tool and I'm going to hover over that circle. It's a little hard to see, so I'm going to move this up a little bit because when you hover over the circle, you'll see that you get a letter T with a little wave, and that means that it's going to right along the curve. So as long as you have that little icon showing, then you can click, and then there's your text. I'm going to have it say Happy New Year, so I'm going to have New Year along the bottom, and I want the text to be centered. So first of all, I'm going to make sure I have Align Center selected. So that's centered. And then if you see this little green and the little red triangle, those are going to be the edges of where the text is going to go. So I'm going to pull the green one over to this middle section here, and I'll pull the red one over on the right and just let them snap to the center guides here, and then it'll be perfectly centered. So there's my text, but I do want it to be a little more exciting than that. So I'm going to double click to click inside the text, and then I'll select it and I'll go up here and I can just pick whatever font I want to use. And since this will be cut out with the Cricut, try not to go too skinny with the font. You do want it to be somewhat thick just so that you don't have any like little pieces that are hard to cut out. I like this font. I think it's pretty cute. I'm going to also move this up a little bit. And if I move it up, then I'm also going to want to make the circle a little bit wider, just so that the curve kind of matches. Now I'm going to actually select all this and bring it down so I have more room to design up there. And then I'll go ahead and lock that. Now I'm going to duplicate the New Year text so that I can have the word happy. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to go to Edit, Duplicate, and I'm going to make sure it's selected over here, and I'll pull it up. And since I pulled it up, you can see the curve doesn't really match the other curve. So I'm going to pull it out a little bit to make it match a little better. And then I'm going to double click and I'll type happy. I think I want my text to get cut out of the blue sparkly paper. So I'm going to select both of these and I'm going to change the color over here. I'm going to go to the color panel and just make sure that the fill is selected, not the stroke. And I'm going to change it to a blue color. Now I'm just going to add some outline to the letters, and this will provide kind of a backdrop of a shape that the letters will be able to be glued onto. And you'll see what I mean once we do it. We're going to need to take this text and make it into a shape before we add that stroke. So I'm going to have this selected and I'm going to go up to Layer, Convert to Curves. And now if you look over in the Layers panel and expand this group, these are all curves. So these aren't letters anymore. You couldn't edit the text anymore if you wanted to. Now we want these all to be one shape. So let's go up to the toolbar at the top and we'll just click Add. Now let's do the same thing with New Year. So I have it selected in the Layers panel here. I'm going to go to Layer, Convert to Curves, and then up in the menu, I'll do Add. So now these are both actual shapes, which you can tell because they have all these anchor points that are drawing out the shape. And I want them to be combined into one shape. So I'm going to grab my Move tool and I'll select both of them. And then I'm going to do Add. So now if you look in the Layers panel, you can see that they're all on one layer and it's all one shape. Now let's go ahead and add our outline. So with this selected, I'm going to go to the color panel and I'm going to pick black. And then I'll go to the stroke panel and I'll make it bigger. But we want it on the outside of the letter. So I'll click Align to Outside. And now you can see it doesn't overlap any of the letters. And it's a nice little backdrop that we can put the letters on and it'll really just make them pop. So now I will bring this down so it kind of overlaps our little strip. And I think I'll lighten the inside color a little bit just so it's easier to see because it's kind of dark on the screen. Now we're going to need to convert this to a shape because remember, Cricut doesn't understand outlines. So we're going to go to Layer, Expand Stroke. Now, if you look in the Layers panel, you'll see you have two different layers and you can hide them to see which is which. So if I hide the top one, the bottom one is just the blue text. And if I hide the bottom one and show the top one, it's just the outline. So this is great, except for the fact that we need the black part to be filled in. Because if we hide the blue text and you see that there's holes wherever all the letters are, that's going to be really hard to line up and glue. I mean, basically impossible. So instead, we're going to fill all these holes. And you might remember this from previous videos in this series, that Affinity Designer 2 has this really cool feature, Fill Holes. So we can just go to Layer, Geometry, Fill Holes. And there we have our black part right there. So now I'm going to show the top layer, and now we have our text. So when this is cut out of the paper, we're actually going to have this on one layer, and then the background on a second layer. So that's perfect. Now we could take this a step further and add another color outline. We could use the silver. So to do that, all we have to do is select our black layer and add a stroke to that. So over here in the colors panel, I'll have the stroke selected and I'm going to make it a color. So we can do gray. Then I'll go to the stroke panel and I'll make this bigger. And then remember, we need to make it go on the outside. Now we have our silver outline, but we're going to need to convert that to a shape. So we're going to go to Layer, Expand Stroke. And now you can see that we have 3 different layers here. not counting the circle layer. We have our blue layer, which is just the text. We have our silver layer, which right now is the outline. Let's go ahead and fill holes. So we're going to go to Layer, Geometry, Fill Holes. And then we have our black layer. Let's move the black layer above the silver layer. And that looks pretty good. The only thing is that we want the silver layer to be like behind our circle. So if we just move the layer underneath, then we can just layer it behind when we create the headband. Next, I want to just check the size. We have a ruler we can use here. So I'm going to click on that, just go like this and pull it down. And that tells us it's 3.8 inches. So let's just check that. I have my headband here, and 3.8 inches is about this high. So this is about how high the headband would be. It's a little bit big to me. I think I would maybe want it to be like 3.5 inches because that's about like this. So I'll make it a little bit smaller. So I'm going to grab the move tool and I'm going to lock my circle layer. And then I'm going to grab everything else. And I'm not going to make the whole thing 3 inches because it comes all the way down to here. And we're really measuring from the circle here. So what I'm going to do is just make this a little bit smaller, and I'll hold down Shift to constrain the proportions. And let's see how that is. I'm going to grab my ruler again, and I'll go from down here and go all the way up. 3.487, so that's about 3.5. So I think that's good. The next thing we're going to do is we do need to just convert this ellipse to a shape, and we want to connect it to the other black piece that we have. So let's grab the ellipse layer and unlock it. And then I'm going to lock the layer that has the blue text and the layer that has the silver. So that way we're only touching the layers that have the black shapes on them. And now I'm going to select everything, and that's going to be the 2 black pieces. And I'm going to click Add. So now these are one shape. And if I click the node select tool, I can see how the nodes go around it. And now we do need to make this shorter. So now that we know how wide our design goes, we can cut it off at the edges of the design because we don't need it to go past the design. Now I'm just going to take the knife tool and I'm going to start on the outside, and I'm just going to make a cut that goes all the way through. And then I'll do that on the other side as well. Now I can grab my move tool and I can select just the part underneath, and I'll just delete it. And if you want to kind of adjust these a little bit, you can use your node select tool and you can zoom in and maybe make these a little bit straighter if you want. The last thing that we'll need to do to prepare this to go on a headband is that we do need to create some tabs that we're going to be able to wrap around the headband and glue to the headband. So I'm going to grab a rectangle tool, and I'm just going to make a long rectangle in the middle. I want to set the stroke to no stroke, and I want this rectangle to be black, so I'll click on the fill and I'll make it black. And we can have this rectangle be maybe 1/2 inch. That would be a good width, but I'm going to unlock my proportions so that I'm only changing the width. We just want it to be like pretty much in the middle. And I'm going to duplicate that. So I'll go to Edit, Duplicate. And then I'm going to curve this one and put it right here. And then I'll go Edit, Duplicate again. And then this one, I'll curve it the other way. It's good to have the strips pretty long because they can always be cut shorter in the end, but you want it to be able to accommodate very wide headbands. So now let's go ahead and combine all of the black pieces to be one shape. I have the blue one and the silver one locked, as you can see. So I'm just going to select everything and click Add. And now they're all one shape. So now this is ready to save and bring into Cricut Design Space. So I'm going to go to File, Save. And then I'm going to go to File, Export, and I'm going to pick SVG, SVG for export. Then I'll click Advanced, and we do Use DPI, and we're going to pick 72. And then we're going to scroll down, and we're going to uncheck Set View Box. Unchecking Set View Box and also setting the DPI to 72 are what are going to ensure that the file comes through as the correct size in Cricut Design Space. And now we can click Export and Save. Now we can head over to Cricut Design Space and make this on our Cricut. Now I'm in Cricut Design Space and I'm going to create a new project. And I'll click Blank Canvas. And I'm going to do Upload, Upload Images, Browse, and I'll pick my New Year's Headband SVG file and Open, and I'll click Upload. So we're going to select that and add to Canvas. And here is the headband. So over here you can see we have the blue text right here and the black background and then the silver. So let's go ahead and click Make. Here's my mat. So I'll just take the cover off. I'm going to get all my material cut to the right size first. So the silver needs to be about 7.5 by 5. Here's the silver. The black needs to be about 7 by 7. And the blue needs to be about 6.5 by 4. Now we can go ahead and run these through. I'm going to make sure my material is set to cardstock. I have all my pieces here. I have my letters and then my black and my silver. And I have my hot glue gun. And I'm just going to start assembling this. So first I'm going to lay the black over the silver. And I'll go ahead and glue that in place. Some of it cooled a little too fast, so I'm just going to touch that up. Now I'm going to glue on the letters. Now my design is all done, and I'm going to flip my design over, and I'm just going to bend the tabs up. And then I'll take my headband, and whichever side I want to be the front, I'm going to flip that over. So then I'm going to set this right up to the edge of the paper. And I'm going to fold these in, and then that's where I'm going to glue them. So let's make sure we have this nice and centered. I will add some hot glue and just fold the tab. And of course, be careful because the glue is hot. And here's what the finished glued headband looks like. And now I can just grab my scissors and I'm going to cut off the extra part of the tab that's sticking out. Now you might think we're done, but remember, we still have to embellish. I definitely want to put some of the garland because I think that is so fun. I love purple, so I'd love to at least add a little bit of purple to it. I don't know if the other colors will really go great, but the purple is amazing. I think I might want to add some of these pretty blue ones too. Here is the finished headband. I'm really happy with it and I'm super excited to wear it out for New Year's Eve this year. If you make a New Year's Eve headband, I would love to know what it looks like. Feel free to email me or you can join my creativity club on Facebook and share your project there. If you have any questions, of course, let me know in the comments, or as always, you can email me at heather@heathercash.com. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe so I know to make more videos like this. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.